All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Dog Talk with Holden. We are here on Thursday evening. You guys more than likely will be listening to this on Friday if you guys are getting it. Getting prepared for the largest outdoor cocktail party coming up on Saturday. One of the biggest games, if not the biggest game of the season. I know a lot of people want to say that the Alabama game that we played earlier in the season was the most, I guess, biggest game of the season. And for sure it was a big one, no doubt about it. But when it comes to the opportunity to be able to play for a playoff, to be able to play for a championship in the SEC championship game and have that rematch against Alabama, this game right here is what stands in the way. You've got other games throughout the season that could come into play as the season continues. Looking at the schedule that I had up here just a second ago, let me pull it back out so I don't forget it. You got Missouri, you got Mississippi State on the west, you got South Carolina and Vandy. So really Missouri, South Carolina, and Vandy shouldn't have any issues with them. But hey, we've had a lot of offensive troubles so far throughout the season, and we've got a lot more defensive troubles that are all of a sudden showing up in the form of injuries that we're going to go through here in just a little bit. So this is the game. This is the biggest one that Georgia faces this season. Because more than likely, if you fall to Florida, I mean, I hate to say it, but I got a feeling that's the end. That's it. That's as far as you're going to get this season outside of playing for a bowl. Because I'm fairly certain if you lose to Florida, I don't think Florida's going to lose for the rest of the season. They're looking at Arkansas, Vandy, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Don't think too many of those teams are going to give them any trouble. Should be able to walk on through that. So if Georgia can't stop them, they're going to roll on. They'll be the team to get to face off against more than likely Alabama in the SEC championship, and Georgia will be left highly disappointed just having to deal with a bowl game, which is fine. But I think Georgia's looking to do a lot more. I think Georgia this year, especially as strange of a year as it's been, is looking not only to get in a bowl game, for that bowl game to mean a lot more, and it be in the form of a playoff game. You know, we'll see how things are going to shake out with this. There's a lot to come, a lot of time to come with this. We've got a lot to get through. This week is the biggest of them all. I'm going to throw up for you guys on the screen. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see the top 25 I'll put up here on the screen for us, as well as the remaining schedule for us. Boom, there you go. Here we are. It's the biggest week. Largest outdoor cocktail party again there against Florida. I'm going to start it off. I'm going to just run through some of your injuries. This is where we're looking. You know, after that Kentucky game, coming into the game, you know, you're missing George Pickens at the wide out position. We're also missing Kenny McIntosh there as a running back spot. So you're missing a couple of key guys there. But for the most part, you know, you had everybody in the game. Jordan Davis goes down. I think with an elbow injury, I think it's what they said. Richard LeCount after the game obviously goes out with the motorcycle accident. Glad to see that he is back with the team as far as he's out of the hospital. He's not, you know, doing anything with the team, but he is at least there on the facility getting, I think, rehab and stuff, I think they said. So continued prayers for him. Hope he can have a speedy recovery and get back to us when he can. Julian Rochester, he's also out. I think went out in this game. Lewis Seen was also an injury in this game. So, I mean, Georgia's defense just took a pounding in that Kentucky game. But I don't think that's the reason that Georgia only won 14-3, because the defense, even though they were hurting, they only gave up 3 points to Kentucky. But the offense only put up 14. So, again, it's going to boil down to that. I'm going to run through some of your injuries real quick and where we stand on them. George Pickens and Jordan Davis are both in that hopeful to questionable position. I do know that George Pickens, the last I read, a lot of it's going to come down to his pain tolerance. What can he tolerate? Because you want him for the rest of the season. You know that if he is at his best, he can produce the best for the team. He hasn't produced a lot thus far this season. But the biggest situation with him is how much pain can he handle. And you know, if you're a tough guy out there, which all of us claim to be, you're going to say, oh, we can handle plenty of pain. Let me get out here and win for the team. I don't know. We're going to see how George Pickens comes into this. I really hope he shows up and fights through that pain, as long as it's nothing too unbearable, obviously. Jordan Davis is also the other on that end with the elbow injury out of the Kentucky game. He's looking questionable kind of day-to-day, but is hopeful for the game upcoming. So hopefully, because we definitely need him. Obviously, with Richard LeCount being out, Julian Rochester is also out in this one, and that is the key guys as far as we know that will be out, with exception obviously to Akili Ringo with the torn labrum and Dominic Blaylock. Obviously, those guys we've known before season are out. Looking at your couple of guys who are doubtful in this one is Arian Smith. He still hadn't seen the field with that knee injury preseason, so he's looking doubtful. Tommy Bush as well. He's doubtful after that. He also had a strange accident that happened that had him concussed, so he's doubtful in this. But here are the probable guys, one of which is Owen Condon, who started the season on the O-line and has since been replaced. But he is actually probable to be back in this one, being Cleveland. He's probable to be playing. Lewis Seen, like we talked about earlier. One of the names that popped up on here that I was most interested in is JT Daniels. He is probable to be able to play this weekend. Kenny McIntosh is back. Quay Walker's back, which is good. Monty Rice is back. And Matt Landers. Quay Walker and Monty Rice, they're going to play a key pivotal point in that defense to be able to obviously Monty is a big starter, but Quay Walker being back in there too, that'll help a lot in that linebacker position to be able to fill in there on that front seven against Florida. Florida's not going to run the ball down our throat. They're not going to run the ball a lot against us. Everything they're going to do is through the air. They're going to find Kyle Pitts, and they're going to find, trying to remember the other wide receiver's name who has the most touches so far on the year for them. But that's where it's going to boil down to. Kyle Trask looks really good through the air thus far this season, and that Kyle-to-Kyle matchup has been a big one. So we've got to be able to put a guy on him, and I think Lewis Seen could be one of those guys. If not him, maybe Stevenson. He's a pretty good guy. Has been able to stick to him. Even Tyson Campbell seems to give some guys some trouble from time to time. So that would be a few guys that you could put on that big tight end there for Florida. But, again, I want to see this offense come alive. And if there's any game that there's ever been to be able to come alive, this is it. To beat Florida, even though our defense is good and we have these, this depth in that secondary and in that front seven for the defense, quality of depth will make a difference in this game. Not that the guys who are coming up, backing up these guys who are out on injuries aren't any good. They are good, but the quality of it comes to the quantity and amount of time that you've been able to put in, not only on the practice field, but experience being in games. In games makes a difference. You can get out there and get hit with pads all day long there at practice, but until you get in the game and are actually getting popped in the mouth by somebody else, that's a telltale sign and difference in a game. So we'll see how things shake out there on the defense, but I think offensively, to beat Florida, you need to put up 40 points, and that's asking a lot. I mean, we did it against Tennessee, but that's asking a lot against Florida, whose defense is starting to get a little bit better. They looked a lot better last weekend against Missouri, and that offense put up some points too, so they are kind of trending in the right direction. Georgia does come into this one as a 3.5-point favorite. The over-under on this one is 52.5, so the analysts and the pros on the call, at least they still seem to think, and especially the guys obviously out of Vegas there with that line, seem to think that Georgia has the biggest chance to still win this, regardless of how lackluster the offense has been, regardless of all the injuries that there are on defense. And I think some of that boils back to the last 4 years. It's been Georgia, and Dan Mullen has not been able to get past Georgia, just like Georgia hasn't been able to get past Alabama. So that's the hump that Florida's looking to get over. And I will say this year seems to be the biggest year and the biggest opportunity for that to happen. One, because of Georgia's injuries. Two, because Georgia's offense just isn't pushing it as much. When it boils down to it, obviously we all know that Stetson Bennett is going to be the one that strikes out onto the field once we get things started. Will he be the one there at the end of the night? We're going to see. The thing that I think is a big point in this in the past couple of years that you've had Jake Fromm there at quarterback, he has not made mistakes. Since the 2016 game, I think at least, from that point on, after that 2016 game, he didn't make mistakes. He didn't throw interceptions to the other team. Where you look at Stetson Bennett, just in the past 2 games alone, has thrown 5 interceptions. I think if Stetson comes into this one and throws 2, you stand a really good chance to see DeJuan Mathis come into this. Possibly JT Daniels with him being on that probable list as far as injuries go. I don't know. We're going to see. Obviously, JT Daniels, if you haven't figured it out by now, is not even the second string uh, Dwan Mathis is, and we've talked about this. So your first, go-to guy is not going to be JT unless they just see a matchup that just seems to be more calling for him. In the press conference that Kirby had earlier this week, he did kind of elaborate on a little bit, and he said, listen, the guy that I'm going with is Stetson Bennett, and that's because he is the one that is prepared. He's the one we've been prepared and put in the situation to be able to do it, and in practice, he is the one that shows us the most and shows us the greatest ability to be able to win a game. Not that Dwan can't, but he's just a step below Stetson at the moment. And if he ever gets to the point where he is even or better than Stetson, that is when you will see a change in quarterback that we all have been wanting to see. But Kirby has not seen it yet to the point that he thinks putting Dwan in is a better deal. Think back to that Arkansas game when we started Dwan. Dwan came in, and yes, it's his first college football game, even though he's been there for a year. It's his first game. It's his first experience being out there, even though it wasn't a large and ruckus crowd there in Fayetteville against Arkansas. He still struggled. That entire first half, he struggled. So we put in Stetson, and since then, that's been our guy. He's been the guy to be able to get the job done, move the ball down the field, even if it doesn't look pretty, and even if it isn't as exciting as we want. He's still been able to get it done. The only time he didn't was the second half against Alabama. Because let's not forget, the first half, he got the job done. We were up and winning and had 24 points on the board against Alabama. The second half, it just stopped. And since then, everybody's been very down on him because of the 3 interceptions in the Alabama game, because of the 2 interceptions in the Kentucky game. So I get it. We've been way down on him because of the mistakes that he made. And they've even said that not all of these mistakes are on Stetson. To an extent, some of them are, but not all of them are. So we'll keep an eye on that as things go. But I do think if Stetson was to come into this one and make a couple of mistakes, you don't have a choice, Kirby. It's time to, if he throws one pick, maybe it's not his fault. Maybe you leave him in there. But if he throws a second one in this game, you cannot make those mistakes. And you cannot come back from that kind of a game if you're turning the ball over more times than Florida is. And hopefully we can have the turnover margin in this one. Hopefully Stetson doesn't make those mistakes, but I think if he does, that's the time when Kirby has to say, okay, even though in practice Stetson looks better and he is the guy that it looks like can get us there, we have got to limit these mistakes. Give me DeJuan, give me JT, let them come in. If they make mistakes, obviously you don't have a choice but to go with your key guy and just hope that he doesn't make any more mistakes. Fingers crossed that doesn't come up in this game. This is going to be a tough one. Again, like I said, Florida's defense has started to look better. They looked a lot better against Missouri. So we're going to see how things shake out with that. Again, injuries is a scary part of this. But, you got running backs back there. You got Kenny McIntosh. You got Zeus and Zamir White. Kendall Milton looks great back there. Wideouts. Even though George Pickens is out, you still got your guys there. Kearis Jackson's been the biggest guy in this one. And if they're going to scheme to Kearis Jackson and put 2 guys on him, guess what? That means you got a guy somewhere on the field that can get open. So all we've got to do is find that guy. Get the tight ends in the game. We're going to see that happen for Florida's side of the ball with Kyle Pitts. So keep an eye on things and see how things shake out with that. Looking forward to it. Georgia, like I said, looking at the football power index out of ESPN, is a 63.7% chance to win this one, whereas Florida's only a 36.3%. Don't let that take away from the fact that it's still only a 3.5-point spread on this one. Your leaders coming into the season, Kyle Trask does lead Florida there. I'll start with them. 1,341 yards, 18 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He did get the SEC rewards, whatever you want to call it, as far as being the first and only quarterback in SEC football history to have thrown this many touchdowns, being 18 in the first 4 games of the season. Congrats to him. Hopefully Georgia can wreak some havoc like we've done in the past couple of years, and especially last year after Felipe went down and he was in. Georgia was able to stay in the face of Kyle Trask, so hopefully that happens again here, and that limits him being able to get to those wide receivers out there. And if that can happen, I think Georgia can keep this game close and get the game won. On the other side of the ball, Stetson Bennett, 1,089 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Again, those interceptions is the scary part there. Keep an eye on it. Those are the only interceptions he's thrown, but all 5, have came in the last 2 games. Rushing side of things, Damian Pierce for Florida, 169 yards, 1 touchdown. Looking at the other side of the ball, Zeus, 90 carries, 402 yards, 6 touchdowns. So you're looking right there, the rushing leader for Florida has only rushed for 169 yards this season. So kind of a key point. Florida's not looking to really run the ball. They're looking to throw the ball. That's what Georgia needs to be prepared for, because their leading receiver is Kyle Pitts, 355 yards, 7 touchdowns. Almost half of those touchdowns that Kyle Trask has thrown has gone to him. So Georgia's defense has to be able to cover him and stay on him all night long. Kearis Jackson does lead it for Georgia, just a tick below Kyle Pitts' yardage at 348. Only has 1 touchdown on the season. Look for that to change this season, or this game coming up. Total points per game. Florida's looking at about 42. Georgia's only at 29 points allowed. That is a difference there, though. Florida's giving up 29, basically exactly what Georgia gets, but they're only giving up 16.2 there for Georgia's defense. Total yardage, Florida's looking to average about 476.5, whereas Georgia's at 404. Yards passing, most of it, again, is going through the air there for Florida at 342. On the ground, they're only at 133. Georgia through the air is right at 230 and 175 on the ground. Again, yardage allowed. So this is the defensive side of the ball. Florida's giving up 433. They're giving up everything that Georgia's getting. So whereas Georgia's only giving up 300. So hopefully that number can stay there, if not lower, and be able to limit it. And this is the number that I wish would kind of flip around. Maybe not flip, but get a little bit more balanced. Georgia is giving up 220.6 passing yards in games. Only giving up 80 yards rushing, which is great, but Florida's not going to run on you. We've seen that. We've seen that in the past. Florida likes to go to the air. We've talked about it already. So I'd like to see that number get a little bit more balanced and be closer to maybe 100 and 100, even if it was 150 to 150 there, where, Georgia is giving up a little bit of running, a little bit of passing, but we give up so many passing yards, it just makes me a bit nervous. Passing yards allowed for Florida, though, 300 yards on the ground, 133. Hopefully Zeus can eat up all 133 of those, as well as Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton. Maybe we can get in this thing and just run the ball kind of like we did against Kentucky, maybe a little bit more open, and start to open up the air game for us to be able to roll. Obviously, coming into this one, Florida's only loss is to Texas A&M, who continues to roll there in the West. Georgia's is obviously the only loss to Alabama, so both out of the West. That does put Georgia and Florida at the very top of the East. Georgia at 4-1, Florida at 3-1. Florida does come in that 8th spot. We will be playing at 3:30 on the CBS network. Looking forward to it. And it's almost time. We're only a day away from it. I'm a little nervous about it, I'll be honest with you, just because I don't know how our defense is going to look with these injuries. And I just don't have the confidence that a lot of our people have in the offense. Do I think it can get going? Absolutely, but until I see it, it's really hard to believe it. And if you're a Georgia fan like you guys are that are listening, y'all know how it is with Georgia. It's been this way for years, with the exception to that 2017 team that was awesome. Georgia just seems to get in a position where they have all the talent in the world. They're a great team, and just for whatever reason just can't seem to get over the hump to get the job done. But if we can do it against Florida here, I think you stand a really, really good chance. I think you stand a great chance to be able to get back to the SEC championship game, and we've got 5 weeks until that time comes. So I think Georgia can get it figured out, and if we can get past this one and start to get the offense running, get our defensive guys back in after these injuries, Georgia stands a good chance to go through the rest of the season undefeated and show up there in Atlanta on the 19th against more than likely Alabama. And I think you've got a lot of work to do before we get to there. Don't want to put all the eggs in the basket before we get past this weekend, because this is the one that matters. But you get to have that rematch that everybody wants here over in Dawg country. So that's what we're looking forward to. Again, don't want to overlook this weekend, because all it takes is overlooking it, and next thing you know, you're kind of out of what you guys want to be in, being able to play for this. I'm going to put it up on the screen for you guys like we did just a second ago. You guys follow me. I did get the Twitter page pulled up. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. There we go. Dawg Talk on Twitter, at Dawg Talk 20. You guys follow me on there. I also did open up our support page. Again, it will be in the bottom of the description. So you guys hit on that, and you'll be able to support the podcast if you guys want. Again, this is on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Really appreciate you guys listening. And I will check in on you guys after the largest outdoor cocktail party we're hopefully by the end of it, and hopefully by about 6 to 6:30 on Saturday night, we're all tweeting back and forth saying, "Hey, how about them Dogs?" And without that though, let's roll on to it. Look forward to catching up with you guys afterwards. Go Dogs!